Planning Commission meeting for August 19, 2014. For those that have not had the pleasure of attending a meeting before, a couple of things to keep in mind. First, we ask that you turn down or off your cell phones so they don't bother the proceedings. Secondly, the way things work, once we're done with our calling the roll and going over the minutes from the last meeting, what happens on each item is city staff presents on the item. Then at first we open it up to the commission for technical questions. Once we're done with our technical questions, we open it up to the public for comment. If you have something to say, we ask that you please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the minutes, say what you need to say, please keep it on point if you can, and be prepared for occasional questions from the commission. Once everybody who has wanted an opportunity to speak has done so, then we bring it back to the commission for discussion and usually a vote. With that, can we call the roll?
David Boysak. Ed Bowen.
Here.
Jeffrey Jones.
Here.
Thomas Whitehead.
Here.
John Hintz. Steve Cummings.
Here.
Kathleen Propp. Here. Gary Gray.
Here.
Donna Laurie. Robert Weigert.
Here.
Carl Nolenberger.
Okay. As far as the minutes from the 5th, are there any additions, deletions, or subtractions to those minutes? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, I think the little gremlins are working these days. The correction I made at last meeting is not really the correction I believe I said. What my comment on the meeting of the 15th of July was that I was concerned about members of the Plan Commission not having, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I was concerned that the members of the Plan Commission may not have sufficient time to accurately review and discuss the proposed zoning code rewrite.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Just to make sure, could you ask the Secretary to read what's going to be in the minutes?
What you just stated, you mean?
No. I just want to make sure that the Secretary understood what I said.
You have that you were concerned with members of the Plan Commission may not have sufficient time to accurately review and discuss the zoning code rewrite.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other changes, or we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion clearly passes. Let's move on to item number 1. Planned development review to allow development of an office/retail building development and release of sanitary sewer easement at the south intersection of Westtown Avenue and North Washburn Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm actually going to correct it a little bit. We do not need the release of sanitary sewer easement. That is actually a Town of Algoma sanitary sewer easement. We're going to be later putting it as a condition of approval that it be released, but I was under the impression that it was a City of Oshkosh easement, and it is not.
All right.
So anyway, this is a planned development approval request for a 3-unit office and retail building and parking lot. It's located, it's this little white hatched out lot here at the south corner of Westtown Avenue and North Washburn. You can see the area is zoned C2 planned development. Land uses are predominantly commercial. Well, they're all commercial. You have service and retail and restaurant along Westtown. You have large-scale retail to the south and to the east as Lowe's, and you have auto service across the street with Quick Trip and another service station and a McDonald's, I believe. This is an aerial showing the site. You can see it's a vacant lot. This is a service and restaurant here. I believe it's Cousins and Cellcom. Lowe's parking lot is directly to the south and east, and this is Lowe's sort of large-scale detention facility, permanent detention facility. You can see, again, it's kind of the right-of-way actually is this red line that runs along the property, so this is the property's right-of-way frontage. but then the roadway and the sidewalk kind of curve around to make that Westtown North Washburn intersection. The lot itself is just under a half an acre. It's 0.47 acres. It was platted at the same time as the Lowe's development came through in 2007, and it was platted as an outlot for two reasons. One, well, and here it is kind of farther away. You can kind of see the development in the general vicinity. You can't see the quick trip here yet. But it was platted here as Outlot 4 within this certified survey map, 6092. And as you can see, it was partially an outlot, for one, because it didn't have access to Westtown or Washburn, and two, because it has this sanitary sewer easement that I just kind of talked about a second ago that runs kind of straight almost through the center of it. So an outlot is basically a platted lot that's not buildable. And I'm going to go back to this aerial so you kind of see it. The area, as I said, is Zone C2 plan development. I talked about the uses around there. But the one thing I do want to really kind of point out is the permanent detention basin right here, and then this large amount of green space that's part of the right-of-way to the north. Forward. This is development plan. The copy in your packets are a little bit better than the scan. But basically, with this plan development, with the okay on the plan development from the City Council, either a CSM or a certificate of correction or some other type of instrument would be brought forward to change that outlot status to a buildable lot. As I had said, we're going to add that as a condition of approval, a staff recommended condition of approval at the end, to release that easement to make that lot buildable. But what's being proposed is basically a retail and office use. It is permitted in the underlying C2 zoning district. It does match our comprehensive land use plan for commercial uses in this area. So really what you're looking at is the plan development for the site itself. And also there's some basic standard modification that goes along with it. The building is 4,200 square feet, and it's conceptually divided into 3 tenant spaces. You'll see the parking lot is here to the south. 22 stall parking lot, meets our code requirements, exceeds our code requirements. There's a dumpster location to the south of the parking lot. This again is Westtown Avenue. The pedestrian walks that run on both sides of the building and lead out to Westtown. And the main vehicle access point to this site will be coming here to the east, entering Lowe's parking lot. There is an existing cross-access easement that went through when the Lowe's was developed. And you can see it was built with the intention to connect to this lot to eventually make it usable. And just so you know, the Lowe's lot, there's 2 exits out of the Lowe's lots on the North Washburn. So that's where this property would exit for vehicles itself. The building, as I had said, is placed to the northern part of the lot. You'll see 2 circled setbacks. They're kind of hard to see here. But they're proposing a 20-foot front yard setback where a 25-foot setback is required in the C2 district. And on the east side of the building, they are requesting a 5-foot setback where a 10-foot setback is required. Staff is in support of this eastern setback for the building. It is 5 feet, so it's substandard by 5 feet. But what that allows is a greater increased setback on the west side of the building, in between the parking lot for this development and the building itself. You can see it would line up then with the parking lot. One of the reasons we don't have a lot of issues with the reduced east setback is you have dedicated green space in the form of this detention basin. That'll always act as basically open space, open green space. So the smaller setback would not impact anything on this side. The front yard setback at 20 feet is a reduction of 5 feet from required 25. When we reviewed it, staff had some concerns with the placement of this building up at this distance, partially because of the visibility that might be blocked for some of these commercial businesses down Westtown. So we analyzed the site itself and tried to get as close as we could to that 25-foot setback. And what we found is if we reduce this 8-foot sidewalk to 5 feet, we could pick up 3 feet for the sidewalk, kind of move the building to the south, And then there's also a 6-foot setback on the south lot line. It's only required to have a 5. So if you drop that down a foot, we can pick up an additional 4 feet on the front yard setback on Westtown, and we will be recommending for a base standard modification for a 1-foot reduction for a 24-foot front yard setback rather than the requested 20. And that way we kind of pull it back to very close to what's required by code and hopefully lessen some of the site distance concerns that staff had. Additionally, the right-of-way to the north right now is all open green space. That could change. It could be reconstructed. So to try to keep that green space in the front helps to beautify the site a little bit more. So those are 2 base standard modifications that they're going to need. Another request that they came forward with was sign location here at about 7 feet from the front property line. Staff, when we reviewed that, we had the same type of concern. At 7 feet, that is pretty close. We are not in support of this base standard modification, primarily because when you look at the building elevations, which I'll get to in a second, you'll see that the building itself, being that close, has a lot of signage area on the walls itself. So we feel that visibility is enough. If they need to have a ground sign, it should probably pull back to meet that setback. Vehicle access, as I had mentioned, is to the east. It's a full access, 2-way drive. Goes to that Lowe's lot again. All the parking stalls are 90-degree parking stalls. They have their handicap stall. The petitioner has, let's see if I have no, it didn't make it. In your packets is here we go, a landscape plan. This one's a little bit hard to see. It's a very conceptual landscape plan. It's going to have to meet code requirements as to plants and quantities and locations, but petitioner wanted to provide a concept of what they're looking at doing. And these X's along the parking lot itself are shade trees. It would be on the east and the west sides of the parking lot. Arborvitae, pretty much a screen wall along the south lot line. Kind of the dumpster's in the wrong location here, but to kind of block that dumpster and this parking to the south. And then along the building, you'd have evergreen shrubs on the south side and shrubs running along the building's north and west foundations as well. And again, landscaping and also lighting will have to go through regular site plan review and we have to meet code requirements. Stormwater detention, as I had mentioned before, there's a large detention basin directly to the east. There is an existing easement. It was oversized to accommodate extra stormwater management. And so this lot, impervious surface, and the stormwater from this lot would run into the existing detention basin directly to the east. And instruments are kind of put in place for that to happen already. The building itself is 19 feet tall. It's a single story. It's broken up. This is the south elevation, north elevation, the west and the east. Broken up by the inclusion of columns. And also the south side has a lot of aluminum storefront glass. The north side would have smaller but yet enlarged entryways. Along that, there's also wall sconces in these columns to kind of add a little bit of architectural detail and also break up the length of the building wall itself. There's a standing seam here as well, which kind of helps to break up this large area. And when I talked about signage just before, this building at 24 feet off of the right-of-way, there's quite a bit of signage available on this building wall. The code would allow up to 30% of signage area on any facade, either north, south, east, or west. Signage is yet to be determined, but there's quite a bit of signage on here. And it'll be quite visible from the road itself. The building is going to be primarily brick veneer and IFAS. I also had mentioned the large window systems and the signage. Signage obviously would have to meet code requirements. So what we are doing is recommending now approval of the development plan with 3 conditions. One, that a certified survey map or other instrument that changes the parcel status from an outlot to a regular lot be created and recorded with the Register of Deeds. That we provide a base standard modification to allow the building's front yard setback to be 24 feet and the east yard setback to be 5. And that the 20-foot sanitary sewer easement be released.
All right, thank you. Technical questions? Steve?
Looking at the drawing here, I assume the south elevation is the main entrance,
Yes.
or the front of the building? Okay.
Right.
Jeff?
there's only one way in and one way out, and then it's off the road in front of it quite a bit. Does fire have any problem with this particular layout?
No, the building size is pretty small. They'll be able to access the building from this parking lot, and then also they can go into the right-of-way to access.
And then there's an existing easement, so there's not an agreement that needs to be put in place between Lowe's and this one to use that water retention pond?
Nope, it's my understanding there's already an easement in place.
And then, this is a planned development, and we've said before that our codes are somewhat light on landscaping and our signage, or liberal on signage. Is it given any thought or concern about the type of signage that gets put on that? I mean, that building, the signs can be fairly sizable, they can be different types, within our code. Is there any issues with trying to make those a little bit more conforming?
Well,
aesthetically appealing, any kind of requirement, because this is a planned development.
Right, and that you could have a sign package come back. We hadn't thought to put any type of regulation on because the tenants aren't in the building yet. And oftentimes tenants require specific signage or corporate signage, and I don't think the petitioner knows exactly what type of signage would be going in.
Does that come back here, or is this our only shot?
Well, it wouldn't. It would follow regular code requirements, which would just address the area.
Is there any thought also on the landscaping part? I mean, again, our codes are somewhat sparse when it comes to landscaping, and he seemed to have a little bit more extensive landscaping and concept.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys think of anything about that to make him stick to kind of what his concept was within reason?
Well, we could look at the concept, and it generally follows the code requirements. I guess the question is if our regular code is light. I'm not sure if it's light or not, but we did not think about putting additional landscape requirements on this property.
I can tell you that generally speaking, our landscaping code is generally a little bit heavier than a lot around, because they get double hit for the parking lot perimeter. So they're generally providing a lot of landscaping. The only place where you see it gets a little light, where it's not required, is the foundation landscaping, and that with the update to the ordinance.
Is this parking lot small enough to where it doesn't have to have the island type landscaping?
Correct. Yeah, the interior islands, the lot itself, it's not long enough or enough stalls.
And because that retention pond is large enough, we aren't considering, asking them to put in like the rain gardens, that kind of stuff.
They wouldn't need to meet our stormwater code. I mean, unless there was other reasons to do so.
Any other technical questions? Gary?
Yes. Is this a new planned development or amendment to existing planned development?
Well, the zoning is a planned development, but there isn't one existing on the property yet. So it's a new planned development in an already zoned planned development district.
Okay. As opposed to just modification to existing. Okay. The next question I have is, has any thought been given just to move the site one foot further south? Everything, both the building and the parking lot, just move it down 1 foot. Then that way there wouldn't have to be an exception between the north side of the building and the street.
We thought about that. The issue that comes with that, if you move it south even further, you would then need an exception or a base standard modification to the south setback, which has to be 5 feet. And at a certain point, that area gets too small to support all those arborvitae that are going to be going in as a screen. And 5 feet is considered to be almost the minimum amount to have a planting screen area. So we didn't feel that it would be trading the base standard modification from the north to the south and potentially reducing that green area to be able to put the arborvitae in.
Oh, okay. The last question, and I have a comment after the question, is do we need to put a condition in saying that they get a written agreement with Lowe's to have access to the parking lot? Or is that something that is assumed or?
Yep, it's pre-existing. That was a
That's pre-existing.
condition of the approval of the Lowe's in 2007.
Okay, my last thing is a comment on the landscape plan. I guess I'm a little bit concerned with the possibility of lack of visibility with a tree just immediately south of the driveway. I'm concerned that a tree, and I don't know how far away it is from the entryway to the driveway, but I'm just a little bit concerned that perhaps that tree would block oncoming traffic coming from the south going north around the parking lot. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Well, I guess how I kind of respond to that is it's very conceptual what he had put here. He just kind of placed them on. They would have to meet if there's a vision. Well, this isn't a street. There's typically a vision triangle if you're exiting a street of 15 feet. But in this case, you wouldn't have that because you're entering another parking lot.
I guess what I'm saying is it's not something that I think we at the commission level can decide. Maybe when the site review committee takes a look at this, or review of specific landscape ingredients, that this would be looked at to see that there isn't a potential of having accident for traffic.
Other technical questions? Seeing none, anyone here from the audience to speak to this item today? Okay. Give them going once, twice. Back to the commission.
Second.
Patty?
You've made some modifications to the request. Is the petitioner okay with these modifications?
I'm
okay with them. Okay, thank you.
I believe he is.
We have a motion that's been seconded. Any other comments on the motion or questions? Call the roll, please.
Cummings? Cummings?
That's you.
Steve?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Steve?
You. Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Weigert?
Aye.
Bowen?
Aye.
Holmes?
Aye.
Wojtek?
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, let's move on to item number 2, conditional use permit approval for exceptions to the provisions of the downtown overlay district at 502 North Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant's requesting exceptions to the downtown overlay district in regards to wall signage and a dumpster enclosure at the subject site. The subject property is what's located at 500 and 502 North Main Street. The property is a 0.78 acre parcel of land located at the northeast corner of North Main Street and Church Avenue / Merritt Avenue. The city assessor's office describes it as a 4-story, 3-level brick building historically known as the Wagner Opera House. It was originally an opera house / concert hall designed by architect William Waters and constructed in 1874. It's a brick Romanesque revival building with additions constructed in 1924 and early 2000s. Over the last 140 years, it's been sensitively maintained and is a pivotal structure within the National and State Register of Historic Places and is a contributing building of North Main Street Historic District, and it was listed in 1995 as the first Methodist church building. The first floor is currently occupied with one commercial tenant, which is Winnebago Bicycle at 500 North Main, which is located in the southern tenant space of the building. The northern portion is currently being renovated. It was formerly the Great Estates Furniture Store, but it's currently being renovated for Ski's Meat Market, which with anticipated opening in mid-September of this year, and is the basis for this conditional use request. It's just up on the screen. Here's the subject site right here at that northeast corner. The existing use, it's mixed commercial residential. It's got, I believe, 3 upper story residential units. Four upper story residential units and the first floor commercial, and is in the heart of our downtown area along Main Street, and currently has a zoning of a C3 DO or central commercial district with the downtown overlay. And it's just an aerial of the site, location of the building. It's got a large off-street parking area and accessory structure, more or less a garage for the residents of that live in the upper stories. The applicant is in the process of approval for 4 wall signs for Ski's Meat Market, with 1 sign proposed for each facade. The proposed signage for the east and west facades include a 4.5 square foot wall sign on the back of the building and a 30 square foot raised channel letter sign on the west facade of the building. Both these signs meet the requirements of downtown overlay, but I just wanted to show them to you to show the overall plan for their proposed signage. The other 2 signs, I'm going to start with the first one. The south facade signage shows up kind of dark here. Currently, the south facade has a wall sign for Winnebago Bicycle, which is located right there. That sign was constructed in 2013 and currently is sized at 33 square feet, which is the maximum allowed within the downtown overlay district. The petitioner is asking for placement of additional wall sign to be located right above it, and listed below the pictures I have the exceptions that the petitioner is requesting. First of all, the downtown overlay only allows for 1 wall sign per facade. The second exception is exceeding 33.6 square feet in sign area. And the last request is the height of the sign. The downtown overlay prohibits signage, wall signage, to be located above the bottom sill of second-story windows or 18 feet, whichever is less. I'll just go over the findings from the staff's review of these requests. The second wall sign, staff looked at the overall impact the additional signage would have. Looking at the facade area, it's an exceptionally large building with a wall area of 6,000 square feet, and the building's ability to have more than 1 tenant on the first floor. So staff does not have too much concern with the additional tenant sign along this facade. Next is the exception to allow the additional square footage. Staff is recommending that, if approved, that the second wall sign be sized the same size as the Winnebago bicycle sign. With both signs together, both signs would total 66 square feet. And when you look at the entire facade of 6,000 square feet, it makes up only 1.1% of the total wall area. And you compare that to other buildings in the downtown overlay area or district, several buildings are allowed up to 5% of the wall area. So staff is not concerned with that the additional signage is out of scale with the building or it's not overwhelming. So staff is comfortable with the additional signage area request. And then lastly, placement above the second floor windowsill. Staff looked at the other options that were available due to the building's location and architectural elements. They're very limited where they're able to place a second sign. They could place it potentially down Merritt Street or Merritt Avenue, but with the location of the Bent Block building, which is across the street, I'm going to go back to the air photo here. If you were to place it further down Merritt Avenue, the Bent building, which is across the street, would effectively shield the visibility of that sign, rendering it pretty much useless. And placing it below the existing Winnebago cyclery sign would interfere with the existing architectural elements of the building and the front store facade. So viably, the only option for the second sign is above it. And as a condition, staff is recommending that the new sign be the same size as the Winnebago cyclery with the same size font and color of the text and the font and the color of the text be complementary to the Winnebago cyclery sign to reduce that impact on the sign, make it have a consistent look along that wall. The next request is for the north facade. The petitioner is proposing a a mural-type sign, which is proposed to be a 20-foot by 20-foot, 400-square-foot mural, which is intended to mimic the look of the classical or historic hand-painted signage, which was popular back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The proposed sign, this is a concept of what it's going to look like. The applicant states that the sign's going to have a distressed and aged look to it, and looks like hopefully will look like it's been there for decades and blend into the character of the building. Again, the applicant is requesting exceptions to the square footage area. Typically on this wall, you're allowed 32 square feet. The sign is 400 square feet, so they're exceeding what's allowed by 360 square feet. Staff's comfortable with that exception, as we understand what the applicant's trying to get at. They're trying to get that classical hand-painted look, the grand type hand-painted signage, which was popular around the turn of the century and early 1900s. The second request is similar to the first. The height of the sign is going to be 18 feet or over 18 feet above ground level. I don't have a plan that shows the exact scaling, but it looks to be starting between 25 to 30 feet above ground level. But again, this is in character with the hand-painted signage, which was common back in the day, that the advertising was using the building's height advantage to maximize its visibility up and down the streets. And then the last exception request is the material which is to be used. The petitioners, to clarify with this contractor, that it's proposed to be a stick-on vinyl material, which will be heat shrunk onto the brick itself. Hand-painted and stick-on vinyl materials are prohibited in the downtown overlay. We are comfortable with the idea, but we want more clarification and material samples from the contractor, ensuring that the vinyl won't have a negative impact or damage the brick behind the building permanently. So we are tentatively in support of the vinyl material, but we just need more clarification with that, so that is one of our conditions. And this is just some examples of the they're called ghost signage, I believe. This is along Algoma Boulevard. It's kind of hard to see, but this is the old Quaker Oats sign, which is still visible. I don't have years of when that was originally painted. And then this is on the back of, I believe, the 500 block of North Main Street. It's a dance school signage, very, very faded, but still there, and adds to the historic character of those buildings. Then lastly, this request was given to us at the last minute, but the applicant is, as part of the renovations of the first floor for Ski's Meat Market, they're proposing to construct a 20 by 16-foot dumpster enclosure located on the east side of the existing outbuilding on the north side of the property. The applicant hasn't submitted details or construction plans yet, but the architect stated that it was planned to be constructed of horizontal wood planks for finished material, where the downtown overlay requires that any accessory structure match the finished materials of the principal structure. In this case, of course, the Webster building, or the Wagner Opera House is a masonry building, so the downtown overlay would require a masonry type exterior finish for the dumpster enclosure. We didn't have ample time to really delve into the appropriateness of it, but based on what was constructed recently for the 400 block east parking lot, the city constructed 3 masonry dumpster enclosures there. Staff is not in favor of supporting the wood plank dumpster enclosure, but we are open to other material suggestions, and so as of right now, we are recommending denial for the request for the variance for the wood material. So with that, as far as signage goes, staff is in support of all the exceptions for the signage requests with 2 conditions. One is that the proposed signage on the south side of the facade, which is going to be placed above the existing Winnebago Winnebago bicycle shop. That would be the same size dimensionally and complementary with the existing bicycle sign. And then for the sign on the north facade, for the mural type sign, we're putting condition on that the finished the vinyl material be submitted to the city, and we need more clarification on the installation of that sign before it's installed. So on that, those are our two conditions for that request. And then for the dumpster enclosure, we are recommending denial for the use of wood planking for the dumpster enclosure.
All right, thank you, Joe. Practical questions? Yes, Gary?
Couple, I guess. The first one, I guess, is a couple of meetings ago, there was some concern about vinyl windows, and I guess what I'm concerned about is what's the difference between a vinyl window cell and a vinyl sign?
The vinyl, in the case of the windows, is the material constructing the framing of the windows. And in this case, the proposed signage on the north facade, it's a thin plastic-like vinyl sheet, which would be adhered to the brick and then shrink wrapped with a heat gun to wrap itself into the brick structure. So,
Okay. Next question is, what would happen if the Winnebago bike sign disappeared or was removed? Could the applicant use that space for a new sign and just have basically a sign that's double this?
the conditional use would go with the building, correct? So as long as any new tenant would come in, the new sign for that tenant space would have to match what Winnebago site already had.
Okay. Okay, I guess that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Any other technical questions? Yes, Steve?
Thank you. The Landmarks Commission did suggest that the large sign that's on the north side of the building would have a bit of a more Victorian
Sorry, yeah, I forgot to mention it. I'm sorry.
order or look to it. And also, will we see a final layout with colors for that large north side sign before it's produced and installed?
We can request that. Mm-hmm.
Jeff?
Was the Landmarks Commission okay with the use of vinyl in this? Because, I mean, that isn't really keeping with the, I mean, it may be keeping with the look, but it's not necessarily keeping with the age of the building.
Sure.
Weren't those signs traditionally painted?
Yeah, when they were traditionally painted, the way brick is used now, the National Park Service, brick at that time was meant to breathe, so it was meant to actually wick water through the brick itself and through the very soft mortar in between. When this item came to Plan Commission, we weren't sure what the material was yet. We knew it was vinyl, but we weren't sure. We thought it was going to be screwed into the side of the building, and they could screw it into the mortar joints, then replace that without breaking or screwing into any of the brick. So this is a kind of new, a shrink wrap onto the building. We haven't checked with the Park Service or anything. I don't know how that would affect the brick underneath, which is one of the reasons Jeff put the condition that community development review it. If it's something that would destroy or harm the brick underneath it, we would have to probably work with the petitioner and come back through to try to figure out a way, or at least bring it back to you guys to make a determination if you're still willing to support that.
I guess
They were
if
okay with the vinyl because painting with a latex paint is incredibly harmful.
Well, but I guess that's what I'm getting at my point. I mean, this is a pretty sizable sign. It's 400 square feet. Those buildings were built to breathe. You put vinyl over it, it's not going to breathe. So that was what my question was. But if the condition that Jeff's got in there allows them to review that further and determine whether that will be harmful to the building long-term, then I'm okay with it.
Steve?
I did contact the sign contractor, and he was supposed to get me documentation from the. Oh, do you have something? Okay.
Yep. I can clarify. I don't want to speak out of turn either.
Okay, we'll let you do your thing in a minute.
Okay.
Steve, you had a question?
One question, with this vinyl material, should the business go out of business within X number of years, how easy is it to remove that vinyl?
And that's a good question. I suspect the owner's going to have an answer for us.
Other technical questions? All right, seeing none, anyone here from the public speak this item today? Come on up, state your name and address, and tell us about your project.
Hi, Chris Larson, 502 North Main, and I'm building owner and business owner, so I can answer lots of questions probably if you have them. To address the vinyl first, I didn't want to interrupt the middle of
That's
your
fine.
proceedings, but I think if we do anything, it'll be paint, and we'll go down that road when we get there. Vinyl will, I think, work. To address the brick concerns, we talked about that a whole bunch. The proper way to do it, we think, is to trim out all the mortar and leaving just the brick so it still breathes from the outside and underneath. At least that's what everybody else has done. You want to see material still? Out of curiosity or not really?
Oh, we'd love
We
to.
can pass around, sure.
Yeah.
But I think in all our looking, the problem I'll have with it is the lifespan of it, and the 3M and the likes materials think anywhere from 18 months to 6 years. So it's going to be too big a gamble and too big a price tag for us to go about it that way. But it's fun to consider it, if nothing else. So I appreciate your time in considering it.
Other things you have to share with us?
Dumpster, the signage, I hope is great with everybody. If you have more questions or concerns, I'd love to hear them. Dumpster is a hard one for us because we don't know quite what to do with it otherwise. But this isn't that kind of forum, is it? Necessarily.
Well, if we support the condition here and turn that one down, you have to work with the city staff to figure
it out.
to make it.
I think that where we're at is we would sort of prefer aesthetically to not match the garage as it is because we own the building and the business as well, and we'll address that when we need to get there. I think the big question we have, and I can talk to you about it afterwards as well, Jeff, is if we can't do it out of block because the budget doesn't support block right now, do we have to have one, period? Because we don't have one now. We would like to have an enclosure, but we weren't told we had to have one. We were asking to put one there, and we were told it had to be a different material than we wanted. But I don't know if that's what you consider here or not.
That's something we should talk to them first before we.
Yep, and we've sort of discussed it a little bit, but that's kind of where we're at. So, Barry, any questions? That's all I have to speak to.
Any questions for the petitioner? Kathy and then Jeff?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't understand. You said vinyl isn't going to work.
We just don't
What are
think
you
it'll-
circulating here?
Those are samples of the vinyl, just in case you were curious to
okay.
see them.
Okay. So vinyl isn't going to work, so we aren't looking at it.
Well, you can still look at it. You don't have to look at it, though, Kathy. You can look at it only if you want to.
Jeff?
Now I'm even more confused.
Yeah, me too.
If vinyl won't work, then
Yep.
what are we approving here?
Technically,
You're holding off on that sign for now, can I take it?
you could approve the first two things and not the material if you wanted to, because the only way for us to do it viably would be with paint and then distressing it with sandblasting or making the paint thinner, or probably paint it and distress it with sandblast. So
would they
your
have to come
first two
back?
provisions are just fine, and they're still in keeping with the spirit of the project.
But if it's
But painting is bad.
if it's
Yep.
Painting is a little bit of a different standard in that. Because it's specifically prohibited, there's all kinds of issues with painting, so
Then you make,
if we're not moving forward with that right now, let's get let's talk about, the other two signs that he wants to get going on now.
Yep.
And we can always bring that back, because you
agreed.
said.
Yeah, table it entirely. It's fine by me.
so the north side would be tabled,
Right.
Yep.
and we'd only be doing on the south side and the dumpster enclosure.
Right?
Gotcha.
Sense?
So, excuse me, on
Go
number
ahead.
2, already got in there, if the material and installation method of the proposed north facade sign be reviewed and approved.
Keep that the same.
So we can keep that in there.
Yeah, but they are changing it now. It's a significant, that from vinyl to the paint is a significant change for us. So, if Chris is open to taking that out right now and revisiting that other time, I guess I'd prefer that too,
Okay.
because.
Me too,
Fine.
by all means.
Okay.
Is this totally out of the question now?
Yes.
Yes, for me in that building right this second, Josh would love to hear what you had to say about it, but beyond that, no, because he'd love to do it somewhere. But
Okay.
for us, it's too much risk and not enough longevity, I'm afraid.
Any other questions for the petitioner, as long as he's kind enough to join us? All right, seeing none, have a seat.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff?
So
General
I'd like to move to remove item 2 of the recommended conditions and move forward with item 1 and the dumpster enclosure.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion?
Can we, I mean, are you going to discuss it as two separate
Well,
items?
it sounds like,
Okay.
it sounds like he's offering his two separate items.
Okay.
Just want to
Yeah,
get it
what
out of
I'm
there.
doing is moving to take that piece out, and then once we take that piece out, then we can vote on what's left.
Kathy?
Don't understand. We're taking out number 2, the north facade sign only.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay.
Steve?
I don't know if this is a place to ask the question, but if it's... And that's the north side.
Then it's
sign.
probably not.
Won't stop him. Go ahead.
If it's painted and the business should relocate or whatever, what provisions do we have to get those signs removed? I mean, or do they just stay there until they, like the Quaker Rose?
Yeah, well,
Well, we'd have to order it. I mean, that's our only provision is to order it. Go to, start the site, well, it's not, I mean, do we have a provision in place? Yeah, we could start the whole citation process and all that kind of stuff.
you could put a condition of the approval when it comes through that it be removed, but we haven't had time to analyze a paint option. I know from my experience working with the Park Service, painting is very frowned upon, and sandblasting is the worst thing you could do to a brick building. So depending what kind of application, I would like to bring that to landmarks because the building itself has been pretty pristinely maintained over the years, and to have you could create some damage there. Anyway,
All right, so there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? Then let's call the roll on the motion.
Cummings?
Aye.
Schwab?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Weigert?
Aye.
Bowen?
Aye.
Holmes?
Aye.
Wojtek?
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, now we're back to, yes, Jeff.
I'd like to move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Yes, Kathy has a question.
I think the south signage looks good. I like the Winnebago bicycle sign, and so another one similar to that would be great on the south side. And I'm assuming that we are, if we vote for this, we are denying the request for an exception to the
Part of
dumpster.
it. Correct. Part of it.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other discussion on the motion? Gary?
Yeah, just brief reference. I think I agree with Mr. Cummings about the possible painting on the north side. The concern I have with the motion is I'm just wondering if there's a public safety issue with regards to signs. The sign is pretty high up, and Main Street is not very bright, and I'm not sure if it would be safe for people to be looking for a sign driving north on Main Street, because Main Street is very narrow at that point in time. I mean,
Our standpoint, it has to meet the sign ordinance, and that's not really our deal.
That's correct. I mean, those are, what Mr. Gray brings up are the same thing that's been brought up for, the billboard, the whole billboard thing along the highway and having signs over there as a distraction over. And it's been something that's been discussed. It's just not been anything that we've ever been able to, I've seen any studies either way on that are convincing. I have my thoughts, like Mr. Gray. As you're driving down the road, should you be looking up? No, you shouldn't, but you also have passengers to think about. And there's a myriad of other things happening as you're going down the road, too. So, I mean, how do you start codifying where you're putting certain things? If it was a flashing sign, if it was a billboard up there that was staring at you, then I'd have a little bit more concerns. A static sign, I'm a little less concerned with. If it was an EMC, definitely. I definitely have a lot more concerns.
Other questions or comments? All right, let's call the roll.
Cummings?
Aye.
Schwab?
Aye.
Ray?
no.
Weigert?
Aye.
Bowen?
Aye.
Holmes? Wojtek?
Aye.
Motion carried 6-1.
Okay. Moving on to Planning Director's Report, Common Council Actions, Planning-Related Items. We have update to economic development element of the comp plan.
Yeah. So, it's been almost 10 years How many people were on the Plan Commission around here 10 years ago? Tom was.
I think I
might
just
have been.
I was just starting when they were finishing up their work.
So we approved the comp plan 10 years
I was there to
ago.
approve it. I didn't really have any part in making it.
So what we're going to do is, next year, we're going to start the process of doing our 10-year update to the comp plan. And we're going to we're proposing to follow the same process that we did last time. It seemed to work it was very effective for us. This was the process that we followed last time. Of course, we've got the council and plan commission who ultimately adopt the comprehensive plan. Everything flows through the plan commission and council. We also created as part of that, which the main members was a comprehensive plan update committee, and that was the plan commission and a few other people. And what would happen is where all the work got done is, if you remember what the comprehensive plan is, it's a number of different elements. So you got your housing element, your economic development, your land use element, your intergovernmental element, agricultural, natural resources, transportation, and two that were staff-driven, which was issues and opportunities and implementation. So these are where all the work, when you look at your comprehensive plan, this is all these steering committees. These are the ones who put together all the work and did the work to create and recommend. Ultimately, what would happen is the steering committee would produce a document, produce a set of recommendations, and we would flow that information back up to the CPUC to take a look at, and we either refine it and go back and forth. And then ultimately, when we had a plan that we approved, we'd move that up through the Plan Commission and Council. So the Plan Commission was always involved. So what we're proposing to do for next year is to restart the process again and follow the same process with creating the whole all these steering committees to work on all these individual items. But what I'm talking about right now is we'd like to get. Where am I, Jeff? Oh, there we are. What we'd like to get going on it right now is working on the economic development element. And the reason we want to start right now is we have an asset in place at City Hall. Brenda Hicks Sorensen, she's under contract with us until the end of the year. So what we want to do is utilize and tap her resources and her knowledge to help us work on this economic development element. And what we're proposing to do, the steering committee that we're proposing to use on that is we're proposing to use the GO EDC board. Now, if you look at the GO EDC board and how it's populated, the personnel, the people, the organizations that are on that GO EDC board are essentially the same, are a lot of the same people that were on. We started the update process in 08, 09, and the people that were around the table are basically most of the same people that are on that GO EDC board. So what we're proposing to do is to, as that steering committee, to use the GO EDC board as that sounding board, because they're charged with economic development in the city and the region. So we're proposing to do all the economic development work, all that working group work before that GO EDC board. Now it's going to follow the same process. All meetings are noticed and open to the public. We create minutes, and all that stuff gets reported up through the system, ultimately through you guys in the CPUC. So that's what we're kind of proposing, and the reason, like I said, we're moving now is because we have an asset in place that we'd like to use. And this would be the one we'd start working on right now. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. Is there any concerns on it? Any other problems that you see? And Gary?
Yeah, I think I have for many, many years been under various deadlines or due dates. And what I like to do is, well, not like to do, I would prefer if we suggest a pretty solid due date for the GO EDC to accomplish its function. It took a while for that organization to get established, and that's fine. At times it takes a while to establish something good, but I'm just concerned that due to other things, because they have other things that they're going to be doing or hopefully be doing besides this, that if we give a due date range, that it would help them in planning the activities, so that a year from now, we won't be sitting here saying, well, what is goal EDC in regards to developing economic development elements to Campbell Hampshire's plan? You know, the other thing is that I think it's great to use the resources that we have on the city staff now. You know, let's use as advisors the expertise that we have. You know, and, the other thing I was going to mention is something I forgot, so I guess I'm going to wait to ask that question. Thank you.
Well, with respect to the goal, the goal is to get it done by the end of the year. I mean, by the entire comprehensive plan update, the goal is to get it done by the end of 2015 and adopted by the end of 2015. With respect to the economic development element, it's been a while since we looked at it, and I can't. It's hard to start putting a time frame on when it should be. We would like to get it done by the end of the year. I think that's going to be. I think that is not feasible.
I think that's fine. You know, I mean, I did not mean to say that we should give a specific date like the 20th of September.
Okay.
You know, end of the year, with them realizing that they probably need to do it a little bit sooner because all these things need to be consolidated.
And let me just add to that. As part of this process, we're pretty good about bringing to the Plan Commission what the status and where we are in each of the particular whatever working group we're on. We're pretty good at letting you know what's going on.
I think that's good to have periodic update to the Plan Commission, even if the update is saying that they're working on it. It doesn't have to. The other question I just remembered is, does the state have any kind of requirements on how to do an update to the comprehensive plan?
Well, the only really requirements that I can recall right now, just off the top of my head, is you have to have 2 public hearings. That's the only That's the only thing I can think of in the smart growth language that's out there, is that you have 2 public hearings, that it's noticed in the paper for 30 days, that kind of stuff. We generally go above and beyond that because we have all these little, these steering committee meetings that are all publicly noticed, that are all open to the public to attend. So
yeah, I was just wondering, because as you well know, when this comprehensive plan idea came about, 10, 12 years ago,
early 2000s.
State statutes were very specific in regards to the pieces of the comprehensive plan, and I was just, wondering if there was some updating process.
I think that in the updating process, you pretty much follow the same thing you did as when you created it, and it's really pretty minimal. You have to have your elements, and then you have to have 2. I think it's 2. What I'll do is I'll just send out some informational material to you guys on what the required process is. But I think it's just two public hearings that are noticed, and then you have to have all the required elements in there.
Just got a question for you there.
Yeah, it's just a couple things. One, on the process itself. Things have changed over the last 10 years, and there may be things now that aren't in our comp plan as a result of just changes in laws and population. However, are you starting with and reviewing that comprehensive plan and saying, oh, here's some voids that we want specifically to go EDC to address within all the other pieces of that element of the economic development plan? And then as we get into others, are you guys starting that first and saying, hey, there's some voids here that we want to address to make sure we include that? How's that going to work? Or is you just going to say, hey, start with comp planning and just go do some stuff?
Good question. I think it's going to be dependent on what element you're getting into. The economic development element, I mean, I think we're going to rely a lot on the recent things that we've seen, some of the recent reports and all the recent consultant work. I think we're going to take a hard look at that, but until we actually get around in the committee, I can't, but I think everything you talked about, we need to take a look at where we were when we created that comprehensive plan, what were some of the recommendations, what's changed in the environment, and all those things I think have to be taken into account as part of that process. And these committees, the steering committees, who are generally, if it's a housing, we get a lot of real estate people and things like that. Depending on what element it is, we try and get the right people around the table to talk about all these issues. And then there's so many checks, and it goes up to the CPUC, then the Plan Commission, and there was a lot of detailed discussion between staff and what was going on.
I know things change, like in land use. I mean, obviously we have to have all of our zoning because that's going to have a big impact on the land use section. The transportation section, we've got a bike plan now that needs to be integrated in there that wasn't fully integrated because we hadn't had it done. So that's where I'm coming from.
You're right. I mean, all those things.
The bigger issue, and over the last couple of years, you've been sending us stuff that the government legislature has been kind of flipping back and forth whether we should have comp plans, whether we need to follow them, things of that nature. Can you give us a really short update of where that is as to if we're doing this comp plan, is there something going on in the state that I know they were considering at one point that kind of said, yeah, we have them, but you don't necessarily have to do them, or they won't govern certain situations? There's
nothing afoot right now that I'm aware of. There's been some recent talk in the past about, and it was basically, I think it was related to, there was a lot of towns in the western side of the state that weren't completing their comprehensive plans. And so they're going to the legislature to try and change the requirement to eliminate the requirement for comprehensive plans. That, I don't think that ever got any real traction. They kept getting exempted. There was a requirement that everybody had a comprehensive plan by 2010, and they kept extending that out to 2011, 2012. I don't know where that is right now, but the comprehensive plan requirement is still in place. The other thing that's been where you've seen a little bit more traction at the legislative level is right now the counties have to have a comprehensive plan, and the counties have to include our comprehensive plan in their plan. And now, what happens is the county has to enforce our comprehensive plan, and that creates some issues between the cities and the towns because our plan governs in our extraterritorial areas. So that causes some consternation at the town level, and they've historically tried to get the legislature to say, no, let's take out those requirements. The legislature at this point has not passed that legislation, so that is still in effect right now.
That's the piece I was thinking of.
Yep.
Is that one? That's the one I remember. Yet. But that still does. Even if that's the case, it still doesn't mean that we don't put together a comprehensive plan, regardless of what the legislature does. Because
we're still going to do that because we still
planning.
We still control the growth in this community. Now we still will have those areas right outside the community, and then we have to kind of plan for. And things go like this back and forth at the state legislative level.
Well, eventually, part of this also include. We talked about this 2 or 3 years ago that we have to do the planning for the mapping out to out streets like 9th Street and
West Side Arterial,
West Side Arterial, and some others. Is that going to be included in this as you envision?
Yep, we'll be updating that end of the plan too, the whole transportation element. So it's the whole gamut will get updated. I'm actually working with the counties actually updating their comprehensive plan. So I'm sitting on that committee with them right now as well. So they're moving forward with that part of the process. But yeah, we're gonna work on this process again next year, and we're going to evaluate where we are. And
thanks for tipping us off and keeping us informed. We appreciate it.
And you will be kept informed. That's no doubt.
I have another question that's somewhat related to this, but not exactly. Can you give a brief update on how you see the riverfront, visiting to riverfront being done, in regards to planning? Because my guess is that the vision to riverfront is not going to be done at the end of this year. And what it looks like you guys are going to be doing is you're going to be doing that planning besides this planning, and I think it's amazing that you guys all got involved with so many things, but I'm just kind of confused on
But
steps.
that's a good question. We're doing the riverfront visioning right now, so we're going to have whatever comes out of that process. And at the same parallel, we've got the zoning ordinance update going on, and we're going to have a riverfront overlay district in there. So we can take some of the findings from the riverfront visioning and include that in that riverfront overlay. So we're waiting to see, what East Central comes up with, and we'll take some of those findings and see what we can put in that. Now, at the other time, we're also, next year, we're going to be working on a major update to our downtown action plan, which we did in 2000, which we've pretty much implemented everything in that plan, and we're going to update that, and we're going to take not just the downtown area, it's going to be a downtown and central city plan update, which is going to go south of the river, between the university and that whole kind of downtown area. So that's another plan that we want to start working on for next year as well. So yeah, we've got a lot of irons in the fire, but hopefully they're all coming together. And the zoning ordinance, this riverfront visioning is really nice for us because we got that zoning ordinance update coming on right now. So we'll see how they pair together.
All right, anything else?
No.
All right, need a motion?
Adjourn.
Second.
Move this second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none, we're done.
Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Or was the
Thank you.
seniors?